Hello everyone, Justin here, and this morning what we're going to do is draw a cockatoo. So let's just go ahead and start by drawing its beak, just a curve, and it's got a hook here at the end that kind of goes in first and then out. And I'm stylizing my line here a bit where I make it thicker as I come out here to the tip. Okay, so then I'm going to finish the beak by just making a curve going back to our original line. Alright, we're going to add more detail to this in a little bit. So let's go ahead and come off the corner here, right there, and start drawing the first feather that comes off its head, and it's going to go way out here. So inward curve first, and then start to curve out. And the top of the head basically will be right about here, so I'll just put a dot there just for now. And let's just go back this way, directly back in this direction. We'll draw an oval for the eye and draw another oval inside, and we'll just go ahead and add a little highlight there for now, and we'll add more detail to that as well with a finer point pen. So going back to this feather, we're gonna go bring it back down right about here. So curve the end just a touch, and then start making it wider as we go to the back, and stop right there. So the head itself will be white, and there are feathers up here that are going to be yellow. So let's go ahead and draw the head first. So bring this line down just a touch, come back and draw another curve, and then another curve that goes up a little bit. So this is going to be another feather that goes up and down. Okay, so here's our dot. We'll draw a line that goes to it, back, and then go back and make a little sharp point again, and then we can finish the head then by going out this way pretty far, like maybe about up to here, but we're gonna curve it a little bit. So continuing the line, and it doesn't have to be a perfect curve because he's got feathers, and it's gonna change the curve so it's not a fair curve, meaning a smooth curve. Alright, so from here we'll just go off a little bit, kind of like where the shoulder would be, so the head itself will be finishing right here. That's why I changed the direction. So coming off the tip here, we'll step off a bit and then draw the other side of the shoulder down. So now let's draw some of these other feathers. So about midpoint on this first feather, we're gonna move up with another curve, round off the end, and then come back. Okay, and here I'm actually gonna separate the feather a little bit, so as if there's like a little bit of a crack, because the feathers tend to split. And we'll just go ahead and bring this back all the way to the head. Okay, and we'll go ahead and add another feather. This time we're just going to step off from the end just a little bit and draw another feather like this and bring it back. So we'll go ahead and add another feather, this time going in this direction. So let's just start at the tip, outward curve, and then start going in, meeting this line. Let's go back all the way back this way. We'll just add one more feather, kind of like another feather just on the other side here. You can barely see it. And then we'll draw one more here. From here, just draw a line directly onto this feather that we just did. Again, curve out the outer part, and we're gonna bend this quite a bit, make it quite a bit wider, and that's pretty much for that one. And then we'll add another one right here, this time with a curve going the opposite direction. And this tip is going to be bent, so you're not going to see the sharp point of it. So we're going to go this way and then come out a bit and then narrow down. Alright, so now our last feather, we're going to go out. Again, kind of like here, a little bit wider at the end. And then quickly getting wider and back. Okay, and then another part of the feather comes out here. We're going to stop there with our thin Sharpie and go on to our thinner pen. We're going to go with a micron, and this is a 01 size. Now we're going to add some hints of the feathers that are on its face. So I'm just going to add these extra lines here that kind of show some of the edges of some of the other feathers. And here I'm going to draw some really short, thin lines. I hope you can see that. And start to add some shading as well. So like right here, just going to add some lines this way and here, kind of like at the end of the feather. And this is helping to indicate the direction of the feathers. Same here, I'm gonna kind of indicate basically the ends of the feathers, because as each feather overlaps the one underneath, it's gonna create a cast shadow. It'll be subtle for this one because this is a white head, but you're basically gonna draw these little short lines that eventually form like a curve, and these will be the ends of the feathers. And not only is it the shadow of the feather, but it can also be overlapping into the cast shadow that it creates on the feather that's underneath, if that makes any sense. So just a lot of short lines here, and depending on the form shadow of the head, form shadow is just a shadow that indicates the form of the object you're drawing, where like this head, for example, is round. This area would be darker than, say, here where it catches a lot of light. So the darker tones here I would refer to as the form shadow. Now if there was a strong light that hits this bird, this head, against a wall, it creates a shadow on the wall. That would be the cast shadow. So these lines that I'm drawing right here are a combination of form shadow as well as cast shadow. Again, the cast shadow is the shadow that the feather is creating onto the feather that's underneath. Okay, and I'm just drawing some extra lines here to try to indicate more of the form of the head. And I'm just going to add some extra lines out here by the edge, again to show the form of the head. Not these lines right here aren't specific for the feathers this time, but more for the head itself. And I'm creating some cast shadow here underneath the beak, just to set the beak off a little bit. Okay, and now we can go ahead and darken the beak itself as well, because the beak is darker than the head, which is white. So I'm just gonna shade it with some fine lines, try to kind of keep it fairly even, and I'm gonna cover the whole beak. But now I'm gonna go ahead and create some shadow by going over it again, especially on the right side here. And that should pretty much do it as far as the beak and we'll just leave it at that. Alright, let's create some more form here as far as the feathers. Going back to our technique earlier of forming the trailing edge of the feathers with short lines that create a soft U shape. And these aren't necessarily just one feather, but groups of feathers. And I'll just continue on here. So here would be the darker part of the head, and so you're gonna see more form, more of the feathers. There'll be more shadows created by the feathers, and that's why I'm emphasizing some of these lines here versus here. I'm not gonna do anything here at all because the light's hitting this area and kinda hides any shadows that would have been created there. So we're going to emphasize more detail here on the side and try to vary this a bit so it doesn't look too regular. And I'm going to continue our shadow for the head and the neck right here by adding more lines. And as we go towards the body, I'm gonna separate my lines even more as I fade out towards the body. Okay, and let's just add some extra lines here around the head. And here I'm actually doing a little bit of cross hatching just to change it up a bit, just to show you that you can mix techniques. And what I'm doing here is basically just adding some shadow, form shadow, to show that this part is bulging out versus this area here in front of the eye. And then because I'm leaving this part white, this part then bulges out again with the feathers. Okay. So our initial lines here, I'm adding extra lines now coming off it with the same idea as before as far as individual feathers go. Alright, so now let's work on some of these head feathers. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some extra lines like right here. You can see here where it splits. I'm basically indicating the direction of the barbs of the feather. The barbs are the long thin sections that form the vein. This whole area is the vein coming off the central rachis. So here I'm going to add a couple lines here in the center that show where the rachis is for this feather, and one here and another one right here for this feather. So the central section here is the rachis for the feather, and then coming off it then are the barbs, which in this case I showed was separating. And actually I'm gonna right here I'm gonna darken this part here to kind of indicate that the barbs there are also separating, and continue hinting at barbs here. And I'm not gonna do the whole thing, just here and there. Maybe I'll just do all of this right here just to kind of show some shadowing of the feather. Alright, let's go over here. So this feather's behind this one, so I'm gonna add more shadow here, basically drawing the barbs, and this just gives it some tone and gives it form. More barbs right here, and maybe more down here again for shadow. And let's do this one. And finally here. And again, I'm gonna add some shadow right here, just so this feather just doesn't look really flat. Coming off the rachis here, and I'm gonna darken this one a bit because it's farther back, and just add some more lines here for the barbs for this feather, and maybe coming off the rachis here, and maybe just a little bit of shadowing right here. And that's pretty much it. So just a quick line drawing of Cockatoo and how to draw feathers. So thanks a lot for watching, and have a great day. We'll see you at the next one. Bye.